What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 171 of Weighing In, episode 2 of the Corona version via Zoom. So I am joined by Dave Mirikitani, as always, and as the last couple times via the internet. So, yeah. Dave, how's it going?
It's good. I feel like there's chapters of this. There's the Andy Hamilton chapter. There's the Alex Steen chapter. There's the Marcus Hoehn chapter. There's the coronavirus chapter.
There you go. Several iterations.
Yeah, for sure, man. You hanging in there okay?
Yep, doing good. We're running our online classes still, and trying to get a lot done outside while the weather is cooperating. I got some cleaning and sanding of the deck going on so I can stain my deck. So taking a break from that to record this, and then making a mask protected run to Menards to get some stain and a brush. And I'm going to try to knock it out today.
Yeah, I've been cleaning out my office and my house. And my dad came over yesterday and he goes, "Your house has never been so clean."
Yeah.
The day you moved in.
See, I feel like our house is not any cleaner, but like other things, like I'm recording from my garage and I didn't have this space 3 weeks ago. Like I cleaned out a bunch of stuff, threw a bunch of stuff away, set up a desk in here. So I got a workspace, and so definitely have improved the outside a little more than the inside right now.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, let's jump to it. The biggest news I think this week is Old Dominion cutting the program. I was able to get some insight for some people, but I'm interested. You and me, generally, we just go through topics. We don't really talk about our reactions, so we can literally talk about them here. What was your reaction? What were your thoughts?
Well, I was very surprised. I mean, I guess surprised in the sense of just if you looked in the vacuum at Old Dominion dropping wrestling, that is very surprising. However, the time of where we are right now and what's going on, I guess we can't really be surprised by anything. And I don't know how much those had to do with one another. Probably not as much as they would like to think. Is probably more convenient timing, but I'm sure it didn't help the situation. It definitely, Old Dominion has always been a team that I have admired as, being not a huge powerhouse school, but always being able to have a tough program. So,
well, yeah, and Steve Martin is, Steve Martin's kind of a misunderstood guy. I think a lot of people think he's kind of this old crusty guy, and I guess he is on the surface, but Steve Martin's the kind of guy that would give you the shirt off his back, they developed that Granby School of Wrestling. He wrestled at the University of Iowa. That picture of him in the Peterson role with Zeke Jones behind him is iconic in all their literature. But Steve Martin really helped out Merrimack. He would let me stay for free every year at Virginia Beach at Senior Nationals. He would always find a place for me to stay because we didn't have a budget. Like I would pay my own money to fly out there. I would usually just jump in a rental car with some Division I coach, but there wasn't Uber back then, and they would,
right.
But Martin would put me up somewhere with the other coaches, and I would always just be able to jump in the car, and they would give me the database, because they had the budget to pay for the database. So I have a very special place in my heart for Old Dominion, Steve Martin. Mike Dixon was there at the time, who's at Indiana now. But all those guys treated me like family and had no reason to.
Yeah.
I could help them with a very few small things. And they helped me in a truly meaningful way. And I think you're a coach, I'm a coach. Obviously, he's a coach. I think your goal in coaching is certainly winning, but I think to impact people's lives in a positive way. And, Martin he's probably going to come on the air and punch me for telling these stories because he don't like anybody to think he's a nice guy. But truly, really, the funniest thing was he would always make me buy him dinner and drinks like that because I didn't pay, for a hotel.
Yeah.
Night late, he convinced me to walk through the Burger King drive-thru.
I didn't think I'd let you do that.
He's a legend there. We got Whoppers.
It must be a thing that he does. So he's known. They're like, it's Coach Martin sending somebody through the drive-thru.
The Burger King backed up to the condo that we were staying in. So I don't think this was his first rodeo.
That's funny. You weren't the first guy he sent down to that Burger King.
No, it was great. So my understanding is that what happened at Old Dominion was a couple years ago, they moved from Division I AA to Division I in football, and they were killing it in AA. And to try to compete at the Division I level against these Power 5 conferences is a disaster, really.
Yeah.
They were the big fish in a smaller pond, and they were trying to go into the bigger pond, and it wasn't going well economically, but they made this decision. So then they needed to cut another sport. They need to try to save revenue somewhere else. They had 17 sports. They were told you can go down to 16. And then, they made a decision between wrestling and a couple other sports. So, I'm actually having Daryl Thomas on the podcast later on this week, who's an assistant there. He's from Edwardsville High School, right across the river here in St. Louis. He went to University of Illinois. Coached at a couple pit stops, coached at Lincoln, was an assistant out there. They had a really good recruiting class, like 9 top 200 kids.
Yeah.
So, all these kids go basically into the portal. And, we have this on our notes, but I guess we'll bring it up now. There's a recruiting moratorium where you're not supposed to talk to any kids till like May 31st.
Wow.
So
is that from NCAA?
Yeah, I got this. Yeah, it's straight from the couple Division I coaches told me this. This isn't like speculation. It's just what it is.
Yeah, no, I'm a D3 coach, so I don't know what.
Well, I'm not sure that it applies at every level. I mean, those guys didn't say that.
Right.
The other thing is I find it hard to believe it's going to be, how you're going to enforce it, right? Like,
sure.
But these kids, especially like, whenever this happens at a program, I always feel bad for these kids. One, because they got to change plans, but two, the finances aren't the same. Like when they decided, they usually decided in their junior year where other schools would have had money for them. Mm-hmm. Other seniors, basically every school's spent or overspent. And so now they're going to have to try to jam these kids in.
Right.
And a lot of times coaches end up making deals like they go, hey, Marcus, we're going to give you 60%. And you go, okay, great, coach. And go, so that's going to add up to 2.4 over 4 years. We're going to give you basically 0% or 3% this year and then 79% the next 3 to make up for it because we don't have any money this year.
Right.
And you have the thing is you have to trust that coach because the scholarship's a year-to-year contract.
Yes.
There are rules that say that as long as the kid does certain things, you have to keep him on the scholarship that he agreed to, but he agreed to 3%.
Yeah.
In this made-up scenario.
Sure.
The thing is, the coach isn't doing anything wrong. Like, he's not the one that got shut down ODU. There just becomes a lot of trust, and kids are scrambling now, and, you're trying to get a roommate and just all the other stuff that goes into making collegiate decisions, and you're doing
and I'm sure this won't be, their best recruits, but, like, some of the guys I'm sure will just stay at school there. I'm sure they had in-state guys that were walk-ons or maybe getting very little scholarship that'll probably just stay and not wrestle now. I know that when I was in high school, we had a kid, I don't know if you remember Corey Husher. He was real tough, like 113, 119 pounder. And he got a scholarship to go to Marquette. And then that was the summer that they dropped their program. And they honored his scholarship. He decided he wanted to go to school there, and that's why he chose that school for the education. So he ended up, going to school there. Still lives in Milwaukee now. So,
well, you're bringing up a good point because I wasn't thinking about the kids that are already there, and those kids are going to have the option of transferring as well. I was thinking about the incoming kids.
Sure.
I guess those kids don't actually go in the portal; they just are released from their NLI.
Yeah.
But basically, their names go back out on the free agent market. That's probably the easiest way.
Yeah, but like you said, this is a really good point. Sucks for them is that the money's already tied up for everybody. I mean, for that class, right? Like, for next year's class is already committed.
Well, here's the other thing. When you go to school for like 2 years and then you transfer, you always lose credits on the transfer. Like, it happens, like the only time you don't really lose credits is if you go to a junior college and the whole goal is to transfer everything and you begin with the end in mind. Like, okay, like when we were at Merrimack and we sent a lot of kids to Mizzou, like what is comp 100 here is comp 1,000 there. Okay, these match up. And you go through that whole checklist on like a general transfer associates of arts degree. But
Right.
when you're going to Old Dominion, you're not like, oh, I'm trying to transfer to XYZ University. You're like,
Sure.
I'm trying to graduate from Old Dominion.
Right.
Take some classes that are Old Dominion specific that don't count. So, thoughts and prayers to those guys, to Coach Martin, to Daryl Thomas. Like I know Jason Bryant's an alum there and he's doing everything he can and getting, like the AD on the air and all these other things, the school president, and I hope he holds those guys' feet to the fire. But, these guys, I mean, we went through this at Merrimack where there was a bunch of shenanigans that went on and, you can send 1,000 emails and 1,000 letters and, 1,000 phone calls. And once these people make up their decision, they make their decision. So, but there's some good kids at that school and there's some really good recruits. So, the good kids will always find a home. It might not be ideal the way they find it, but it will definitely happen.
Yeah, I saw, I believe Larry Early tweeted out something about that somebody said that you'd be the last All-American at Old Dominion and how it kind of really hit him at that point. And that kind of sucks.
Yeah. And, Steve Martin was a guy that brought kids on like a Larry Early, that transferred out of Minnesota, brought Sedarian Perry over from Eastern Michigan. He was a guy that took some kids on that maybe, took some kids on the rebound on the second chance for various reasons. And so those, my first interaction with Steve Martin was not good. We were recruiting the same kid and he kind of big timed me a little bit down at state. And I told Lee Pritz at the time, I'm like, I don't care if I ever talk to that guy ever again. And it went so far to the other direction.
Yeah.
And I know things he's done for kids, like, literally the shirt off his back that was legal to do, and you're that kind of guy. It's one of the reasons why I like working with you is I know, doesn't matter how much you have, if somebody needs it, you're going to give it to them, because you care about people. And I think the difference is your personality is pretty easy to see that. Steve's is a little crustier, but I think I'm somewhere in between you two.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I could definitely see that because he comes off as that curmudgeon type of guy.
But
some of it's in his walk, though,
The little elbows out, yeah. We need to get James Torres and Mike Dixon on here to do their Steve Martin impression. One night on a Virginia Beach on the walk home too, which literally was priceless. So maybe you can get those guys to shoot some TikTok videos or something like that.
Awesome. Yes. Guest appearance with impersonations. That's what I want.
There you go. So this moratorium thing is worth digging into a little bit though, because, there's kids that haven't, this is the time of the year. Like right now, okay, so D1s would have been done. Virginia Beach would have happened. Olympic trials would have just happened. The week before would have been last chance. And now you'd be getting into like I think it's kind of the same all over, but like here, like the state freestyle and Greco season, those 4 or 5 weeks, and then the state tournaments and qualifying for Fargo. And then, the Vegas tournament, it's at the end of this month. But this is also where a lot of juniors, well, really sophomores about to become juniors and juniors about to become seniors. It's hot and heavy. And so when you put a moratorium on all this, it really slows things down. The other thing that a Division I coach said to me, and he said it was fine to put on the record, he goes, if they cancel football, he goes, there's a very good chance you're going to see 25 Division I wrestling programs in jeopardy.
Yeah, wow. I would hope that it doesn't go that long, right? But I think it could affect football, but I would hope that it doesn't go long enough to cancel football.
Well, even if it affects football like for 2 weeks, now you're talking about like essentially, 15 to 20% of the revenue that comes in.
Sure.
You pick I'm just picking schools that have big stadiums, but like Michigan and Ohio State, which have big football stadiums and have really good wrestling programs. It's like 106,000 people go there. And then all the revenue from merchandise sales and everything else. And then the bowl game money goes to the conferences as well. It's not like the basketball tournament. Like, you get a cut of it as the university, but then there's another cut that goes to the conference.
Right.
So, like, it's the one time where Michigan and Ohio State are rooting for each other. Like, look, they can try to beat each other's brains out, but whoever won, I hope you go to the Final Four and win it, because it's more and more money for all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, there's all, on the other hand, like, we're recording this on April 7th, and Dana White is probably going to try to host a UFC event in 11 days,
On an island.
He's putting it on an island, supposedly, or else Southern California. Habib's not going to be able to get out, so it's going to be Gaethje against Ferguson. That Habib-Ferguson fight just seems jinxed for like the 6th or 7th time. But, I mean, baseball's talking about coming back in May. The president met with a bunch of like commissioners of the leagues and saying, we've got to get sports started again. And, I try not to have opinions on things that I don't feel like I'm intelligent enough to know both sides of it. But I will say this, it feels like one side of it is, look, we need to preserve life and everything else, which I completely agree with. The other side of it is, if you take forever to preserve life and people don't have money and they're broke and they're destitute, and now people are resorting to crime or other things like this to literally get food just to feed their families, there's got to be a happy medium in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Not want to be the people in charge trying to figure out that happy medium, but it's not just a one-sided conversation. Like, it's double-sided for sure.
Yeah, well, I think that's the trickiest part of this whole thing, right? Is that balancing act between, if we do nothing, then this could be really disastrous as a death toll and a health crisis. But, if we do too much, too long, then this economy could, really put some people in some bad spots, crime going up. I mean, you'd have suicides going up, people defaulting on mortgages, losing their entire fortunes. Yeah. But, you're a stock guy. The market's back up today, right?
Yeah, I'll give my quick free pitch on that. Ultimately, what drives the market is simply a grouping of companies where you can buy ownership. Ultimately, what drives that, there's all these other things, inflation, war, pandemics. Ultimately, what drives it is profitability of companies. And these companies that dropped a bunch in price, it had nothing to do with their profitability. Maybe in the short term, like, people are going to buy less Harley Davidsons and buy more Procter & Gamble products.
Yeah.
And that makes sense, right?
Sure.
Lysol, toothpaste, toilet paper, things like that. People are going to buy less, like Carnival Cruises and things like that. But it's a blip. And really, like, I got a guy call me, he's like, I'm buying Clorox. And I'm like, that's one way to go. The other way to go is to buy Carnival Cruise right now. Because think about this, when people can travel, they're probably going to travel like crazy.
Well, somebody said that cruises were already up 9% this year.
Yeah. Well, like hotels, things like this, just stuff in that industry, right? Rental car companies. I mean, and look, we're not trying to give out investment advice here. I'm just saying, in general, what drives it is profitability. So
yeah.
Anyway, so the next thing is there's the Arizona State coaching staff with another shakeup. We talked last week. Chris Pendleton went to Oregon State. I think we might have had some audio difficulties, so I don't know if we're able to post that, but he goes to Oregon State, takes the head job there for Coach Zaleski, and Jameel Kelly has been relieved of his duties. He was half volunteer coach, half RTC coach. Okay, so they'll be looking for somebody to fill that dual role there. And they'll obviously be looking for somebody to fill the role of Pendleton. Arizona State's an interesting coaching staff. Like, most of the coaching staffs are like Iowa's all Iowa guys, and Oklahoma State is traditionally and is now all Oklahoma State guys. Like, Missouri's interesting because they got some non-Missouri guys there now, like with Maple and Tyrell Todd. Like, Dom's a Mizzou guy, but
at Missouri, we never really had Missouri guys as assistants. We've always had them, like you just said, like Dom, like a volunteer or a director of operations. But like as a Mizzou assistant, I don't even remember the last one. Do you know? I mean, I guess Sammy would have to be considered technically, but
yeah, that's a loophole, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, I think Sammy's a Clemson guy, right? You know?
Yeah, for sure. I just wanted to put that out there for the person who would call me out on it if I said
trivia question, yeah.
if I said not.
I'd have to go
didn't say
back and think about it. Like, I mean, I don't know, but I mean, Arizona State's more of that Mizzou pattern of things, you know, where they're not, you know, they're not like, well, we got to get Sun Devil guys, you know, like. I think, you know, like, and I was at State this year and met with Tyrell, Todd, and Maple, and they could not be more bought into Tiger Style and Mizzou. I mean, we just had a lunch as friends, and those guys completely are bought in and talk to me about what they've already learned from Coach Smith and how he's enabled them to do what they do well. So I don't think I think there's multiple ways to get the job done, right? But so the rumor mill is circulating on who they're going to hire, and I think I might know who it is, and working on getting that interview. I spoke to that person today, and I think we're going to get him on either tomorrow or the next day. But
you're just dangling that in front of us, huh?
I'll plead the fifth on dangling things in front of you, but yeah, we're working on something that's good. So yeah, that's the problem, man. You know how much time I spend on the phone anyway. Now I can
watch dangling that stuff in front of me. I'll be on it faster than that tiger on that chick's arm in Tiger King.
I haven't watched that one yet. I watched.
You haven't watched it? What, have you been living under a rock?
I watched Ozark.
I watched that too.
Yeah. So anyway. So the next thing is Tate Orndorff transferred from Utah Valley to Ohio State. And, you know, it's interesting, like it's those dominoes, it's the tree in the forest. So like when Kirkfleet left Ohio State, well, I mean, it starts with Snyder left, right? Snyder goes to Whitney Lion.
Yes.
Kirkfleet follows. It was between Ohio State and Penn State anyway. So he goes over, and he's at Penn State now. You know, they've got Gary Traub, who kind of steps in and is a really nice story and, you know, had some good wins, but certainly is not an elite guy. He's a guy that's, you know, like a fan favorite that's made himself great, but not
he's tough
by any means. And he only stepped in because Chase Singletary got hurt. Chase Singletary was kind of a small 285er, and now it looks like he'll probably go down next year with Colin Moore being gone. And so it's interesting because Ohio State was one of those teams that probably on paper was not going to be as good next year as they were this year. I mean, because they had 2 number 1 seeds going into the tournament, you know, with Fletcher and with Moore. And I mean, if you figure those guys win it, and I'm not saying they would, at least, you know, Fletcher for sure was, him and Nick Lee felt like, you know, you could coin that one. But let's just say he makes the finals. That's 16 points plus advancement. Colin Moore wins it. That's 20 plus advancement. They're probably worth close to 44 points, give or take. You know, you take, you know, that out of the mix. That's a lot of points to make up. So it'll be interesting to see how Orndorff does in a really crowded heavyweight field that will have Gable Stevenson back, Mason Parrish back, Cassiope back, Zach Elam comes back, Colton Schultz comes out of red shirt, Kirkfleet comes out of red shirt. I mean, now we're getting into these hammers that we've been talking about, this sort of golden age of heavyweight.
Yeah, it's. I think we're going to find out how good some of these guys really are. You know, I think some of them have really tough, and they've been really tough, but they're young, and they haven't been proven yet on that D1 schedule. And you know, we had some guys this year that I think, not to take anything away from them, and I'm not talking about at heavyweight, but we had some young guys with big names came in that we saw that they stumbled a little bit. You know, who knows how they would have ended up at NCAAs, and they had a great season. But, you know, the Sassos and the Brayton Lees and the, you know, those guys that had outstanding seasons, but, you know, you just saw they're going to stumble a little bit here and there just with being young. So I think we'll find out a lot about some of those heavyweights and how well they can wrestle, you know, especially like a Colton Schultz, who's a very, very good Greco guy, you know, and not that he's not good at folk style and freestyle too, because he is. But, you know, just seeing stylish.
He's a leading Greco, like you're
saying. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that that's going to be a fun group to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting crew of youngsters. And then, you got all the other guys that were good during the regular season that, like the kid from Wisconsin, Hilger, he's back for another year or two.
Thor.
I think he was only a sophomore this year. Yeah, Thor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now he's not really considered young now. He'll be a junior.
Sure.
But, I mean, that's going to be – I remember when Gable Stevenson was a freshman, we're trying to figure out where to rank him, like in the first rankings. And I was talking to Andy Hamilton, and he goes, where are you going to rank him? I go, there's 3 options. He goes, okay. I go, you can rank him number 1. You can rank him number 33. Or I said, I could rank him right above Tanner Hall because he had tech fall Tanner Hall in freestyle. And granted, it's a different skill set, but it's like 10-0 in like a minute and a half. So, like, you have to go off something.
Sure.
Felt like a safe basement for him. I think that's the one we landed on. I can't remember. It was like 5 or 6 or 4, whatever Hall was. He was one above that.
Right.
These kids coming in are going to be difficult to rank. Like, where do you rank a Kirkfleet, right? Like,
That's tough.
Like Zach Halem's actually pretty easy to rank. He was a round of 12 guy a year ago. So you rank him behind all the guys that would have been a round of 12 this. Actually, I've never had to do this before because we've always had a nationals.
Right.
So next year is going to be a really interesting jigsaw puzzle to put together.
It is, because you're basically going off of the last set of rankings, which are really just rankings, right? There's a lot, like we've talked about multiple times, the difference between rankings and predictions.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is we shaded our final set of rankings heavily towards how the qualifiers went. So Mark and I will actually use the last set of rankings and the set before that. Like, let's say you were 18 and 12, but you made the finals of your conference. So you got a bump, or conversely, you were 24 and 0, and maybe took 3rd or 4th in the conference. So we're going to have to put a blend together. But normally the process is this. The nationals happen. We get the brackets. We delete any seniors, and then we just rank them on down. Like if you and me were both in the round of 12, we either go off the seeds or we go off where we had them ranked.
Yeah.
Like if you're ranked higher than me, like, okay, you're next in line. We do that all the way down, and then we start blending other guys in from the year before, transfers, like a Cade Brock. I mean, there's like a million guys like this that Yanni. Yanni's an easy one because he goes at the top. But like a Cade Brock, he's a more realistic one. Like, he was an All-American, then a round of 12 guy. He's going to go in there somewhere. He's not going to go in at 1, and he's not going to go in at 33.
Right.
It's become judgment calls, You just have to have a methodology that is defendable. Like, so, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be really complicated. I actually talked to Mark about it, and I'm like, probably in July, we're probably going to have to, the good news is we have all the conference results, they're all online.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think, like, what do you do? Like a point system, you think, like not a point system, but like a average ranking based on the before the conference and after the conference?
Maybe. I think in this case, it's a little tricky because I remember the first year we did rankings, we ranked Leland Witherspoon above Alex Meyer. And it's because Leland Witherspoon had placed 7th and Alex Meyer was rounded 12th. And Andy Hamilton correctly pointed out, he's like, Alex Meyer's never lost to Leland Witherspoon. And I said, okay, but if I do that, now I have to go back and look up anybody, like you placed and I didn't, but I beat you the last time we wrestled,
Yeah.
It's a lot. I go, honestly, all anybody remembers is how'd you do at nationals. Doesn't matter, doesn't matter if I pinned you in the dual meet. If you won nationals, no one cares. Alex Meyer beat Mark Hall when he was a freshman. No one cares. Mark Hall won nationals.
That's true. Good point.
Oh, and I go, look, once they wrestle the dual meet and Alex Meyer beats him again, he'll bump up, which is exactly what happened. So, that was one of the things I like about Andy was he never, like, as long as I had a methodology, even if he didn't agree with it, as long as it was consistent, he was fine with it. And that methodology is really easy to follow because you don't have to go look up all these other results. I know other ranking, other websites and stuff, they go this whole body of work. But look, you and I both know, like, in a normal year, they go, how'd you do at state? Nobody cares about how you did at regionals or the conference tournament. I mean, there's a million, like, we saw the Big Ten tournament. It's highly likely that those would not have gone the exact same way, right? Like,
Yeah.
Vincenzo could be Marinelli, Kemmer
Right.
could beat Hall, Lee could beat Fletcher. Who knows who'd win 133? You know, like you can go through, Sasso and Lugo, you can go through a bunch of those, and a bunch of them twos beat ones at the conference tournament. So there's nothing to say that that guy who was one who's now two couldn't flip it back the next time.
Yeah.
So that'll be a really interesting conversation. And maybe like in July or August. The other thing is, like, you have to blend in, like we were saying, like the Dayton Fixes of the world and these kind of guys, because like Dayton was second the year before, and you go, okay, well, this is, I think you'll probably see way more variance this year between like the 5 or 6 major sources to do rankings.
Sure.
Than you'll normally see, because everyone's going to have to come up with their own formula.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that there's going to be a lot of figuring it out going on in a lot of different fields from this point forward. Usually
I have the preseason rankings done by now, minus, like the Vitos and the Fixes and those guys. And we do it I do it because it's fresh in my mind. I literally will take the brackets and just start writing numbers on them when I'm sitting at the airport on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, that's it's unfortunate that we aren't able to do that.
Yeah, for a lot of reasons.
I wish that I would have known what it was like to watch a NCAA tournament on a football field.
Yeah. Well, I think Minnesota will probably get one of the bids next time. I have no inside information on that, but when a city is hit like that and they did nothing wrong, I certainly think they're probably going to reward them.
Sure. Yeah. I think that probably is what should happen, I would think. Now,
I think a lot of people feel that way too, right? Like,
yeah. I wonder how many people that were complaining about it, saying it was stupid and the setup was bad, now are going, well, I didn't think it was that bad. Like, I still wanted to go.
Well, you could think the setup was bad and still rather go to a bad setup than no setup, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just joking around.
Yeah. St. Louis is going to be a huge beneficiary of all this, though, because St. Louis hosts this coming year. And I mean, people are chomping at the bit. Like, the sports commission has already called me about some ideas we're working on. You've met with that guy, and we'll probably meet with him again once it's safe to do it. But I mean, he's got some really big ideas, kind of a welcome back wrestling kind of night. And I mean, I will definitely be involved in that, just based on, I guess, being an old guy around here with a recognizable last name, St. Louis. But what's cool is I get to give my input, and I get to talk to guys like you and other smart people that we talk to, like, hey, guys, how can we make this great? And then kind of be the funnel for that and bring it to the sports commission. So a lot of things you see is actually just conglomeration of ideas from a bunch of us, which is really cool. Like when it happens, like, it's not a bragging thing to be able to say we were a part of that, but it's just cool to be, hey,
absolutely.
You've got involved with him, the last time, we all had lunch together. And I mean, people all have these different experiences. You're a Missouri high school kid. You went to the University of Missouri. So, your path is different than mine. And, you bring a different set of eyes and ears to it, for sure.
Absolutely. Can't wait to get, I'm already, that pumps me up just talking about St. Louis, coming to St. Louis.
Yeah, it should. Well, I've been working on Border Brawl right now because, besides business and turning into David House Cleaner, doing keto.
Mary Maids over here.
What'd you say?
Mary Maids over here.
I know, right? Yeah, the Mirikitani Mary Maid, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you certainly have more time on your hands than normal. So, we've been working on some growth in that event too, and we're excited about it. So,
awesome.
I think one of the things I didn't realize in my life is how much enjoyment I get out of looking forward to stuff.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I've thought about that a couple times talking to people in the last week. So I took this class in college at the University of Missouri, as you mentioned before. It may have not been the most prestigious class or a course of study, but I don't even remember why I took it. It was a class on kind of like recreation. So it was like the history of recreation in America, things that were popular. I mean, we did a unit on the Weber grill and like the conversion to back porch hanging out or backyard hanging out versus it used to be front porch. Like people used to hang out on their front porch. Lots of things like that. But one of the things that stuck with me the most that was actually very valuable was we did this unit on understanding how the planning part of something is generally more fulfilling to us than the actual event itself. So like the looking forward to, leaving at this day, we're going to do these things. We're going to see this. We're going to experience this, and thinking about it and looking forward to it is more enjoyable to us a lot of times than the actual experience.
Well, if not, usually at least equally enjoyable, especially if you're doing something nice for somebody you care about, right? Like I remember you were going to come to a baseball game with us one night when we had a bunch of guys in town, and you got a sitter and you went out with your wife and we got rained out, but you're like, hey, we got to get out of the house. We've been looking forward to this. We're just enjoying a night out, as a couple. And, like for me, like going to Dallas this year and taking my parents and letting them, be able to see the U.S. Open for the first time. I think the planning was great. I also think the execution of it was great. The cool thing about planning nationals is people know how great nationals are. There's always these amazing storylines, always this amazing wrestling. And, frankly, St. Louis feels like home. Like I think if you've wrestled almost any period of time, you've probably wrestled one of your national tournaments at St. Louis. Just, that's kind of been the pattern. So we'll be bringing a bunch of releases on that, as progress, throughout the spring and summer. But I give a shout out to Chris Roseman here at the Sports Commission, one of the hardest working guys I know. He was a soccer guy. And when he took over his job at the Sports Commission, he literally just called me out of the blue and said, I want to meet you and your father. And we're like, why? And he's like, it's my job. And he just said, he goes, you guys are people that are well respected in the wrestling community. And we want to get wrestling here and we want to make it great. But I know talking to other people, he did that with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
He's become a huge fan of wrestling, of the sport and of the guys. And, hopefully women soon at the NCAA level, Division I level. And so St. Louis is going to be straight fire next year, but it's going to be awesome.
Awesome. I'm freaking looking forward to it. I know that I love that I have enough room in my house this time around that I can host some friends. Before we were renting a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, a little closer to the city for people, but we didn't really have any room to put anybody up. And now I have extra space. So I'm pumped about that.
Yeah. And you got a lot of buddies, so that's cool.
I do.
So, well, I think because of my non-free Zoom account, we're about to run out of time here.
Yeah.
I think we'll call it a wrap, but you're looking good, bro. Keep doing good things. I'm seeing you on social, killing it. Doing a great job for those guys.
It's crazy that my only complaint on that is we do these online practices for Zoom. I think I already complained about this once, but the internet is slowed down that sometimes I can't upload my videos. So we record the practices and then I upload them and it's taking forever to do that. And in fact, yesterday I let one upload for about 5 hours and I came back to it and it was frozen at like 81%. I had to start the upload all over again. So that's happened a couple times. If you're out there uploading stuff, I feel your pain.
You're doing good things, man. I'm proud of you. I told you that last week. Keep doing good things. I can't wait till we're cleared so we can record in person and then have a bite to eat ahead of time and just actually be like bros again,
Absolutely.
So,
get out of my garage.
Let's thank our people real quick and we'll jump off. So we're brought to you by Resolite, your one source for both classic and lightweight mats. Resolite Zip Mat is the first and only tape-free mat to offer a waterproof interlocking connection system. Their Digiprint mat is the only fully customizable mat featuring unlimited graphics that brings unrivaled school branding to your new lightweight mat. Go to Resolite.com for all your wrestling mat needs. Resolite, the mat company. Pure and clean sports mat cleanser does not cause skin burns, doesn't expose you to your athletes to harsh chemicals. Read the label, check the safety data sheet. Keep your wrestlers on the mat. Go to pureandcleansports.com, order a wrestling team bundle. Follow their postings from Jaden Cox, Kyle Dake, Michael Chandler. And then Grit is the official drink of Titan Mercury, several USA Wrestling State organizations, endorsed by several senior level athletes, safe for all ages, increases your endurance. It starts working within 20 minutes. It absorbs into your body 2 to 3 times faster than water alone. Increase your energy, reduce your muscle fatigue, peak your performance with grit. Go to ttpnutrition.com. And that's it for us this week, boss.
Awesome. Catch you guys next week. Peace.